What is the scariest or most disturbing thing to ever happen to you on the internet? One day I hear a scream downstairs, so I run down and my mother is sitting there with her hands covering her face and the family laptop, at the time, on the floor. I asked her what happened. She proceeds to tell me that while she was perusing one of her ghost watching webcam websites, she went to minimize the window and the face of Reagan from The Exorcist popped up and screamed at her. Unfortunately for her, this is her worst fear. Nothing scares her more than that face. I tell her, well, it was probably something on the site. It was all about ghosts and crap, so it wouldn't surprise me. Nope, I was wrong. Around a week later I hear the same scream, the same crash of the laptop hitting the ground and run down. Same thing, Reagan face, screamer. I asked her if she was on the same website and she said no. She was on IMDb, minimized the window and it popped out. So I figured then it was some sort of virus that had a chance of popping up when you minimize a window, as it also happened when she went to minimize the ghost website window. Did a few virus scans, had a couple of results and it never happened again. And she also stopped going to those filthy websites. I had a guy impersonating me all over the fricking internet for years. Started when I was 15 and last I saw of it was when I was 19. Honestly, I just quit looking. The creepy part is that this was an adult white dude and he would send pics of me, a not adult not white girl, to people and have these obscenely coquettish conversations with them. As a teenager I didn't get it, but now I'm thinking he likely had some kind of sissy fetish and was really getting off on pretending to be a little girl and being treated like one. One time, when I was younger, about 2008 or 2009, I was on Steam and I got a message from someone I had played with, telling me that they wanted me to be their child, that they'd buy me anything I wanted. I later got a message from her husband, telling me that they hadn't been able to have kids and they wanted me as their child. At first I assumed it was a joke and ignored it, but the messages kept coming. They kept asking, pleading and insisting. They said they could meet me to pick me up anywhere in the country, and that they'd do anything I wanted. I never did find out if they were trolling. I was on vacation in Las Vegas several years ago, and while there, my friend I was with had a stroke while we were walking off the monorail platform. He collapsed and almost died. He had to have emergency surgery and will never be the same. When I got home, I started a donation thread on one of the sports message boards I read and help run to try to help him and his family out. Several people were very generous and donated, but one guy in particular was in butthole and was calling me out for asking strangers to donate to a stranger. I took it fairly personal since it was a close friend this had happened to, but at the same time, either donate or don't say something. Being in butthole isn't going to help. Well, one of the other users decided to be in butthole back to the guy and told him, I hope you have a stroke and die. It turns out, about a month later, the guy that was being in butthole lived alone and had a stroke and died. It was a real WTF moment. Not me, but my girlfriend rejected a guy on a website who was 19 years old. She was only 14, and he found out a whole bunch of things about her and threatened to kill her brother, who he went to school with, and threatened to break into her house. My girlfriend told her dad and they got the cops involved. All they did was put a restraining order on him, but luckily he didn't bother her anymore. I was hanging out in a forum I helped moderate, and one of our shithead users, whom I'd tangled with more than once because, well, they're a shithead, and their crony thought it would be funny to take pictures off my Facebook and start posting them randomly, then commenting on my looks. Also, the crony posted my photo to his profile with a creepy message about thinking I'm pretty. Then they went into the whole "it was just a joke, it's her fault for not having her FB privacy settings tight enough" song and dance when the admin came down on them. Back around 1999 I used to sell software out of my apartment, sort of a side job to my boring office life. I had this really rudimentary computer, nothing fancy, but it got the job done. I used to spend hours and hours just browsing the net, looking for cool links, surfing the web, that sort of thing. Anyway, one night I fell asleep at the desk, like just full on conked out next to the keyboard. I had my headphones on, so I shouldn't have been able to hear anything from the computer, but I heard a message pop up and I woke. I got a few lines of text from somewhere, looked like DOS prompt, so I thought maybe my PC screwed up. I couldn't even escape out of it. Freaked me out. I went out to a club later and this woman approached me. She called me by my net handle. No one knows my net handle. It was her who was in my computer earlier. She said she knew the truth, and I asked what truth that was. She leaned in close and whispered to me, "This is the plot of The Matrix. Use a serious tag next time OP." I pegged this as soon as I read software out of the apartment because that movie is the only instance of physical software piracy involving mini discs that I've ever heard of. When I was about 12 I had just started playing RuneScape. This was my first time playing an online game, so I didn't really know people would try to mess with me. I randomly started getting private messages from a player I had never met in the game telling me full paragraphs about how he is the son of Satan and something about his eyes being black, and how when I go to sleep at night his father will consume my soul. Was pretty terrifying for a sheltered kid, haha. Didn't play much RuneScape after that. I remember I once had uncut rubies and didn't know how to refine them. I asked how and someone said that if I gave him the rubies he'd refine them for me. I realized right after I did it how freaking dumb I was. I was cybering with what I thought were girls in the days of Yahoo Messenger. I thought I struck gold when I came across someone who lived a few miles from me and gave her my phone number, naively thinking I was gonna get some that night. Turns out it was just a high-voiced dude that really wanted to suck my dong. I told him to frick off, but he started calling me relentlessly telling me that I had to meet and frick him otherwise he would tell my parents what I've done. I told him off again, confident he would never find me. He then quoted me my address, both parents' name, and the church I attended and said he was going to call everyone and send them the dong pics I had sent. I called the cell phone company up and switched my number and gave my parents some bulls about it not working properly. He never followed up with me, but he very well could have, and that was the freaky part. I had a girl I knew quite well impersonate me in the early days of the internet, completely down to my handwriting which she'd used to prove things and near identical grammar and spelling to mine. She used pictures etc that she'd take for innocent reasons and then use it to prove it was really me. She made up some bizarre alternate story about me using real snippets from my life intermingled with something truly bizarre to make me look like a raging sociopath to anyone who read it. She and her friends secretly hated me. This was in the days when forums were a big deal and people from all over would read your personal threads. I didn't find out for years. When finally she got found out, then went and shut down my real accounts to make it look like I was being busted for faking. I have a new last name now for other reasons. If you Google my old one, it'll all come up in text-only archives of the pretty much defunct site. I saw her on an ad as a before model about a year ago and thought that served her right. First time I used Tor and got onto the hidden wiki and crap. I seen a link for hiring a hitman. The realization that I shouldn't be here hit me like a freaking train. Noped all the way to the uninstall option. About 9 years ago I was selling a camera on Craigslist. I got a response from a girl, or so I thought. We went back and forth about price and then the conversation changed to a more sexual nature. She sent me a pic of herself and asked to take a picture of my dong and send it to her. I being the frisky early 20-something, I obliged. Mind you, this was all through the original response from my Craigslist post. I didn't even give her my name. I have tattoos on my arms that were visible in the picture. Dumbest thing I've ever done. I sent it to her and she replied positively. I then remember the conversation getting weird and her being flaky about wanting the camera. She actually bailed a few times meeting me to make the transaction. I may have said something rude and then she told me that she would show all my friends the pic, naming all of them by their full names. With my tattoo visible in the picture, I would be easily identified. My jaw dropped and I was freaked the frick out. My tech-savvy friend at the time helped me figure out what was going on. Apparently someone sent me a keylogger type virus and was monitoring me. They took the opportunity of my Craigslist post to put the fear of God in me. Needless to say, I didn't internet for a while. Oh, and I still never found out who did it. So one time a parody account of the guy with dreads from Good Burger followed me on Twitter. The account was pretty much a failure. It wasn't funny and didn't have many followers. So one time he messaged me and said shout me out, or I'll come to your house and kill you and your family. And boy, you better pray I get to 1k followers tonight. I obviously knew he wasn't going to do that, but it definitely freaked me out a little. TL. DR. Guy with dreads from Good Burger threatened to kill me and my family. Back in the early 2000s I had a somewhat popular blog. I made a post one time that stuck up for gay people, refuting the "it's a choice" bulls etc. One extremely popular blogger decided to get pee off and mobilized his fan base. Next thing I knew, they had created a website about me and were trying to get the address and phone numbers of where I lived and where I worked. They were openly talking about getting me fired, and some of them were even saying they should go to my house and rape me to teach me to keep my mouth shut. To this day, I wonder how so many people can wish so much harm on someone they've never met, just for having a different opinion from them. Do these people regret their behavior or even remember it? Finding kiddie pee through Tor browsing. The site was paid to view. There were several videos of kids varying from age 3-8, and I believe the only option to view them was to buy the video through Bitcoin. There were a few images of the kids and the perpetrator. Each video had a short description of the kid and what the video was about. If you liked a particular kid, you could request more videos of the perpetrator and the kid by paying more. I've seen a lot of gory videos, from Luca Magnotta video, 3 guys 1 hammer video to videos of cats and dogs being crushed, but none shook me up like browsing that site. A very eerie feeling. I think the feeling for me was comparable to the first time I saw a video of someone being killed. I believe it was the Dagestan massacre video. Frick, I thought the Bitcoin thing was a myth. Dang, that's fricking disturbing. I drunkenly posted to Gone Wild and deleted it once I remembered it the next day. From then on some frick would follow me around Reddit and comment on everything I submitted, responded. Everything. Telling me he had my pictures and b, I needed to shut my stupid b face and post more because I was only good for my c. Eventually progressed to rape threats. He kept making new accounts and would often comment multiple times on the same post with them. I ended up just deleting that account, which sucks, because there were some good posts. A couple years later I started camming on a group video chat site, never getting more naked than a tank top. I've found people asking for nudes of me by my username on image boards before. The internet. Getting bitched about for comments I made on another site under another name. Criticize Israel and its policies and you go on some lists. Guy on a website I'm on gets banned for going nutso bonkers. Blames me. Sets up Change.org petition to be unbanned and sends me rape death threats. Re-registers on the site as multiple accounts and tries to start more trouble. Gets banned again. Resumes sending me threats with the addition of pics of genitalia. Apparently IRL he's been arrested for assault before, so I'm lucky he's across the pond. Not sure if this comes under the type of disturbing you are aiming for, but I once opened a link someone provided on a forum. It was meant to direct me to an answer to a question. This was on a school computer in the middle of an IT class. Immediately a window popped up with a picture of a woman covered in crap. There was also an audio playing with a voice saying, "Hi, I'm watching gay pee." The window kept duplicating and the noise got louder and louder. It didn't answer my question. I'm very careful on the internet, often using aliases and drastically shifting any personal information that I post, so thankfully I have no doxxing stories or anything. But what I do have is the most startling thing that has ever happened to me through the internet. Although looking back on it is funny, I got crazy into the Ben Majora's Mask creepypasta as it was happening. I remember when the first Jajazable video came out. I remember reading all the 4chan threads. I loved it. One night, the pasta progressed and Ben was supposedly released to the internet. One thing 4chan went to was Cliverbert, since it was the voice of the internet. Jumping on the bandwagon, I went to Cliverbert and asked it if it knew where Ben was. It said yes. I asked it where. "Behind you," it replied. I turned around and saw the mirror on the wall behind me. I screamed and dang near peed my pants. When I was a wee lad I was interested in creepypasta to a massive extent. I still am today, but definitely not as much. I read a really good gaming one. I won't specify, as the thing I'll get onto later mentally traumatized me, to the point of nightmares. Doesn't help that some of my friends kept showing it to me. Basically, I looked for fanart of it, went onto a link to DeviantArt, and the browser instantly loaded a massive picture of this horrible image. I had nightmares, as I specified, for 2 nights after. Even one of my friends who I showed had nightmares. Smile Dog was the creepypasta that fricked me up with nightmares. Met some dude on Steam. Sent him a fully clothed photo with a sign that said something specific, including his username. He was being really creepy and almost red pill-ish. Googled his username and found my picture posted on a forum with "I'll keep you all updated" blocked him. Glad that was all I sent and my face wasn't in it. I was googling all kinds of crap back when I was about 14 and got interested in the Illuminati. I went too dang deep and started freaking myself out about it. I began piecing things together and became a conspiracy theorist. I never posted anything. However, one night, my brother So got a call, untraceable no number. I answered it, as we lived in the same room. Small house. I had been searching Illuminati crap all night. It was 4 AM at the time. A man with a gruff voice said to me that they were going to kill my brother and frame me for it if I continue down this road. He used first and last names. I was freaking out a little, telling him that I was gonna get him in trouble and to not call here again and to leave us alone. He ended the call by telling me that he'd put an end to everything I loved in this world and that I would be framed as going insane and be in a ward the rest of my life if I did not stop digging. I told my parents while crying, and the police could not trace the call. I was scared shitless for a year, but I am older and stopped thinking about it until now. I've started down the Illuminati rabbit hole but always get freaked out and stop looking into it. Being a conspiracy theorist is my secret guilty pleasure. Last year, I broke up with my boyfriend. He'd set up my home network, configured the router, all that. He works in IT. Good guy. We just didn't work together. And he was upset about the breakup. My parents went on vacation in February, and I was home all alone for 2 weeks. I'd gotten a couple texts from my ex. He said he was having a hard time getting over me. He was upset about something I posted on Reddit. I didn't even know he was still looking at my Reddit activity. So, me, short, weak girl, home alone. First, I noticed the front door was unlocked. I hadn't unlocked it at all since my parents had left. I went in and out through the garage. That was easily explained. I'd had some people over, and they went out on the porch to smoke. Second, I found a bag of my ex's stuff in my room. I was totally baffled, since the bag was in a pretty conspicuous location. It was all stuff he'd never brought over. 2. In my confusion mild terror, I went to my computer to send a friend a few Facebook messages about it. The moment I sent the first message, my router stopped working. I did what any normal person would do. I grabbed the metal bat my stepmom keeps by the bed, panicked briefly about the possibility of bringing a bat to a gunfight. Ex freaking loves guns. Then went upstairs to reset the router. I checked the hidey hole in the upstairs bedroom, checked the basement, checked all the door locks. After all that, I went to my bedroom with the bat and put some stuff in front of my bedroom door. A few friends showed me how to change my router password and scan my computer for open ports and do a couple other things relating to computer security. Thanks, you schematic boy. My router issue was probably just a coincidence. But with the other weird things from that day, as well as my ex's unhappiness about our breakup, my freakout felt justified at the time. Now, I think I overreacted. When YouTube first started out, a 10-year-old me decided to post videos of myself blowing huge bubbles with bubblegum, because, why not? A few weeks later and this guy named Mark kept mailing me, found my MySpace and Bebo accounts and was really freaking me out. He got me on MSN and tried to make webcam contact and ask for numbers and pics. Thankfully, I realized there was something weird happening, deleted all my accounts and stopped going on the internet until I was a bit older. This will get buried, but when I first started using forums on the internet, I was about 11/12 or so. I shared a picture of myself amongst friends in a Harvest Moon forum or something and I got messaged by some random dude saying he loved masturbating over my pictures. Being a 12-year-old girl, that was pretty much my first real exposure to creepy guys like that and I felt sick. I had a few more incidents like that and I remember one guy pressuring me to give him nudes when I was 13/14. I never did. Recently my Snapchat got leaked and some guy started sending unsolicited dong pics. I just screenshotted them, blocked him, and laughed at his pathetic wiener with my friends. Also, when I was about 12, I remember helping someone out on a forum, and the OP private messaged me saying something like "thanks for the advice" as the title. I opened the message and it was just this photo of a disemboweled woman with a cross in her throat. First time I ever saw gore and it freaked me out so much. Nowadays, I don't open PMs anymore because of the amount of gore and dead hedgehogs people send. Sorry to everyone who has sent a nice picture that I never replied to. Someone wanted me to come online early in my morning, way different time zones, to talk. During the conversation his typing became erratic, so I asked what was going on. He was trying to gas himself in his garage and I managed to talk him out of it. After that I was so shaken I started to avoid him online. As far as I know he's still doing okay. Still check up on him sometimes. Back in the 90s I had AOL. For those of you that are fortunate enough to have never used that service, if you knew someone's username you could send them an instant message that would first make a chime sound. Then the message inside a box would appear on the screen offering different options. One day I got a message from someone by mistake. I did not recognize the username and we quickly established that the person on the other end had made a spelling error. I say the person because I was not sure as to their age or gender and it seemed intrusive to inquire. I was doing the middle-age retrain thing at the time. School full-time and work part-time. Somehow we went back and forth a bit about schoolwork then signed off. For about 2 months I would get an occasional message from this person. Maybe once a week. Always very vanilla. Always about school. I caught on after a while that the person was possibly quite young though their gender and exact age would remain forever unknown to me. I can't say I particularly enjoyed these interruptions but I did detect loneliness and possibly a bit of desperation from the messenger. What could go wrong? I was just being polite, right? Remember this was the 90s. I don't believe cyberstalking was a well-known concept at the time. The last message I got was a hello type greeting to which I responded in a similar fashion. The next message said something like "stop messaging my child or I will report you." Aho. I was at the least stunned. I thought it might be a prank, but if it was not, was I in trouble? I resisted the desire to type that I had never initiated a conversation, all of which were hopelessly innocent, which all sounded so creepy. I decided to respond in a similar fashion. If I get another message from this user I will report to AOL that you are harassing me. That was the end. It was an important lesson for me. Don't communicate with strangers on the internet. Don't accept messages from strangers. It may look innocent to you, but possible not to someone else. I saw a pornographic film where this girl put her arm, almost up to her shoulder, inside of another girl's anus, and she opened her hand inside of her, and you could see her stomach move where the hand was. This really disturbed me, and it can't not be healthy or feel good at all. I didn't watch another pornographic film for a month after. My GF of 3 years and I broke up. She was hyper jealous. I wanted to travel. She didn't. She full on stalked me for 2 years and made me miserable. I left and traveled for 10 years. 2 years ago, she contacted me on Facebook. I friended her and she sent me dozens of pics of us together and maudlin love songs. Things are pretty cool between us now. She lives 3,000 miles away, but I swear, I cringe every time someone knocks on my door now when I'm not expecting anyone. Not that creepy, but I was bored at work one day and I googled my own name. I found a blog from a guy with the same name. I signed his guest book and left a sort of smartest humorous comment. Then I started getting emails from his friends and family about respecting the dead. I don't know if this counts as being on the internet, but something happened on my laptop that still haunts me to this day. A few years ago I had noticed that my computer was beginning to go exceptionally slow, and that the memory on my hard drive was disappearing. It became much more apparent once several fake PC scanner programs would begin to pop up every time I was online. After a few days of putting up with this, my computer would randomly shut down and let me know that there were corrupt files or some crap. It all seemed like the standard virus stuff. I've had it all many times before, especially on this laptop. But because I was a poor college student and I couldn't afford to take it into the shop, I asked my computer savvy friend if he could take a look at it. So I invited my friend over to take a look at it. He does a few diagnostic tests on it. I don't know what he was doing in particular. I'm not very good with computers myself. He brings up a screen that runs through all the files that might be the problem, and he says that it'll probably take a few minutes. So as we wait, I ask if he can get a couple of drinks from the kitchen. Soon after he leaves though, the diagnostic test window closes on its own, which doesn't strike me as too weird. It was a crappy computer, but when it gets to just the regular desktop, the scariest thing happens. The computer screams. It screams a loud, bone-chilling shriek, like a woman being brutally murdered. This scares the crap out of me. I fall back onto my bed, almost paralyzed. After this I bolted out the door to get my friend, but by the time we got back to my room, the computer had shut itself off. He eventually fixed the problem, wiped a good portion of my hard drive in the process, but he never found out what made the wailing shriek. Ever since then, especially when I'm alone, I've never been able to fully trust my computer. Back in the day of AOL chat rooms, yeah, I'm old. I met this kid that lived in Florida and I lived in Indiana. We chatted pretty regularly. I think we even talked on the phone and got to know each other pretty well. He was into hacking, which was relatively new to me. Heck, the internet was relatively new. I had a free webcam that came with our computer, but I never really used it because no one else had one at the time. So one day I was chatting with the kid, and he told me that he can hack my computer and turn my webcam on. Of course, I didn't believe him and did the whole no you can't until he did it. And, right in front of my eyes, he had control of my computer and turned my webcam on. Oh wow, super cool. I was pretty dang impressed. As time progresses and we get older, we start communicating less and less. For me, busy in my own life, one day we chat again, and he asks why I haven't been online much and chatting with him, and I just told him I had other stuff to do sometimes. The next time we talked, he told me that he saw me with my boyfriend and now he gets it. At first I was just confused until I realized he had been turning on my webcam and watching me without me knowing. After that, I got a lot smarter being on the internet. I'm late to this, but being a stupid 13-year-old, I posted my phone number on MySpace and got texts from someone posing to be a teenage girl, so I talked a bit. At some point after mentioning what town I was in, what things I was into, I was like, okay, well, going to the dollar theater with my friends, and well, that girl was actually like a large 30-ish-year-old woman who went to the theater, without my invite, to see me there and introduced herself. She was also with a male friend, probably a BF, looking around the same age, who had like scary with tattoos. They asked me to go to watch one of the movies with them and itch my friends. I was like, no thank you, it freaked me out. I stuck to my friend's brother side the entire time. I don't think I've ever been so attached to someone before or ever since. And also being 13, I was so scared I was gonna get in trouble for it, for like letting it happen where a random lady and her BF could find me, so I never told anyone. After that I stopped responding to texts and she got pretty threatening, like I know where you live, alley bank and all that, but eventually she just stopped. It was weird. Never post your number online. They were going to kidnap you. Scares are pretty scary. I'm very possessive about my PC and I thought I lost all my data before I remembered that I have Malwarebytes installed. It's an amazing software. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.